Japan has the death penalty. The method is hanging. But here's what truly shocks people. Nobody knows when it will happen. Not the inmate, not their family, not even the public. There's no countdown, no final meal with a known deadline, just silence. One day, a guard simply says, "Come with me," and that's it. This no-notice policy has been in place for decades. It's controversial, but deeply embedded in Japan's justice system. Now here's the twist. Most people on death row in Japan wait for years. 5, 10, 15. It's normal. But in this video, we're not talking about normal. We're talking about the rare few who didn't wait. People whose executions came with unnatural speed. Why? What made their cases different?
By the way, my name's Takku. I run a YouTube channel in Japan called Takku TV, where we explore everything from true crime and historical deep dives to breaking news and internet culture. This video is part of a new English version of the channel. Same style, just in a different language.
Today we're diving into the fastest executions Japan has ever carried out. And trust me, they're not what you'd expect.
Let's get some context first. On paper, Japan's criminal code says this: a death sentence should be carried out within 6 months of final judgment. Sounds efficient, right? But in reality, that almost never happens. From 2007 to 2017, the average wait time between sentencing and execution was about 5 years. Some inmates waited more than a decade. Why the delay? Well, officially, it's about careful consideration. But there's more to it than that. There's an unofficial rule. If the inmate is appealing for a retrial, the execution is postponed. Some see that as abuse. Others call it necessary, because once it's done, no takebacks. There's also the weight of the act itself. Executing someone isn't just a legal task, it's emotional, heavy, for the guards, the ministers, everyone. So Japan waits, but not always. Sometimes it moves fast, shockingly fast. Let's start with one of the most infamous examples. Case 1. Mamoru Takuma, executed in just over a year. In June 2001, Takuma walked into an elementary school in Osaka, armed with a kitchen knife. Without warning, he began stabbing children, one after another. When it was over, 8 kids were dead, 13 others were injured, along with 2 teachers. Takuma didn't run. He dropped the knife, looked at the staff around him, and said, I'm tired. He was arrested on the spot. At first, Takuma claimed he had taken 10 doses of medication. He wanted to look insane, mentally unfit for trial, but toxicology showed nothing, and 2 psychiatric evaluations found him fully responsible for his actions. In court, Takuma acted like the monster he was. He yawned, shook his legs, glared at victims' families, and when people in the courtroom shouted, "Die already," he smirked. He wanted the death penalty. He even threatened to sue the government if they didn't execute him within 6 months. Yes, he literally tried to sue Japan for not killing him fast enough. And yet, even with all that pressure, his execution came 1 year and 1 month after sentencing. That's still incredibly fast by Japan's standards. His final words? Not to the victims, not to the families. He said, "Please tell my wife I said thank you." No apology, no words for the victims, just a quiet insistence to die on his own terms. That was Takuma, a man who begged for death. But not every case is like his. Some are much harder to judge. The next one, it started with a man trying to save his mother and ended in one of the most disturbing murders Japan has ever seen. Case 2. Tadashi Kikuchi, executed in 6 months. In 1953, a brutal murder took place in Tochigi Prefecture. A local shop owner, his family, and an 18-year-old housemaid, 4 people in total, were found dead. The room was ransacked. All had been tied up. And most disturbingly, semen from multiple men was found on the maid's body. The police suspected a group assault and robbery. They began a wide investigation, and 2 months later arrested Tadashi Kikuchi, age 28. The key evidence, a watch stolen from the shop, was found on his sister. So, what happened? According to police, Kikuchi had invited a friend over that night to fake an alibi. After his friend left, Kikuchi put on a mask and broke into the shop. He demanded money. Then, panicked that his voice had revealed his identity, he murdered all 4 victims, brutally. But he didn't stop there. To make the crime even more grotesque and to throw off suspicion, he raped the corpse of the maid. He believed that such cruelty would make it seem like someone else had done it, someone more monstrous than himself. And his motive? Money. His mother was going blind, and he needed cash for her surgery. Also, he had just gotten engaged the day before. Some say he needed the money to support the marriage. Others believe the engagement was staged, a calculated move to look less suspicious. When Kikuchi confessed, he was sentenced to death. And like every condemned man in Japan, he had no idea when the noose would come. But here's where it gets wild. After his second trial, his brother visited him in prison. He gave him a letter. It said, "Because of you, mother is being harassed." Soon after, Kikuchi escaped. Yes, he escaped from Tokyo Detention Center. His siblings had smuggled him a tiny saw hidden in soap. He had secretly been cutting through the bars little by little. When he ran, he left a note. "I can't apologize enough. Please let me live just a few more days." The police assumed he'd go home, and they were right. 11 days later, he was arrested in front of his family home. In front of the press and the police, Kikuchi begged, "Let me see my mother just once." They allowed it. A 1-minute meeting. He looked at her and whispered, "Mom?" After that, both his brother and sister were arrested for helping him escape. Kikuchi was quickly retried and sentenced to death again. This time, there would be no delay. His execution came just 6 months after his escape, one of the fastest on record. His final words? "I've caused a lot of trouble, but maybe after I'm gone, my family can live in peace." And one more disturbing note. Remember the multiple semen samples found on the maid? That mystery was never solved. Some believe Kikuchi's brother might have been involved, but to this day, no one knows for sure. Case 3. Ryoji Kagayama, executed in 1 year and 4 months. Our third case takes us to Osaka, February 1st, 2008. Inside a commercial building called DD House, a man was found dead, stabbed in a restroom. The murder was quick, silent, and sudden. No one even realized it had happened until it was too late. 1 week later, a man turned himself in. His name was Ryoji Kagayama, age 58. Now, at first glance, this looked like a tragic but isolated incident, but it wasn't, because Kagayama had killed before. Back in 2000, 8 years earlier, Kagayama was living as a homeless man in Osaka, desperate, broke, angry at the world. With another homeless acquaintance, he roamed the city by bicycle, carrying a knife, looking for targets. On July 17, 2000, they attacked a 24-year-old Chinese exchange student. She was riding her bike through Osaka's Chuo district when Kagayama stabbed her and stole her purse. All that for just 6,000 yen, about $40 US. That's the price he put on her life. She died. No one was arrested. Only a vague witness description, an older man. Kagayama vanished, until 8 years later when he killed again. After the first murder, Kagayama fled the city. He lived off small loans, odd jobs, and whatever he could find. Eventually, he got work at a recycling company, but he didn't last. Friction with his boss led to him quitting again. Back to homelessness, back to desperation. In 2008, broke and spiraling, he decided to rob someone again. That's when he entered the restroom at DD House. The victim simply walked in. Wrong place, wrong time. He was dead within 40 seconds. When Kagayama turned himself in, the police ran his DNA. It matched evidence from the 2000 murder. That changed everything. His confession no longer counted as voluntary. The courts treated him as a repeat killer, not a man seeking redemption. He was sentenced to death in July 2009. On December 12, 2013, just 1 year and 4 months later, he was executed. We don't know Kagayama's final words, but we do know this. While on death row, he submitted 2 poems to a prison exhibition. They read, "In this world, I can no longer serve my mother. I am left only with my sorrow, and no one to celebrate my 60th year. Just letters that arrive into my loneliness." It's strange, isn't it? Even the worst people, in the end, often cry out for their mothers. Now that we've covered all 3 cases, there's one more piece of the puzzle we haven't talked about. What actually happens on execution day in Japan? Most people have no idea, and frankly, that's by design. It's disturbingly quiet, and the inmate, they don't know the day it's coming, not until that morning. Why? Because telling them in advance might cause mental collapse. So, the system waits until the last moment. At dawn, the inmate is taken from their cell. This is called shutsubo, the official command to leave. They are first brought to the Kyokai Shitsu, or guidance room. There, they can write a will, decide what to do with their belongings, and meet a spiritual advisor for final words. Then comes the Zen Shitsu, the waiting room. It's connected to the execution chamber, but separated by a curtain. There, the warden informs them, your sentence will now be carried out. They're blindfolded, handcuffed, and then the curtain is pulled open. They step into the chamber. A small platform waits, marked with a cross. They stand on it. A rope is placed around their neck, and when the moment comes, 3 officers press 3 buttons. Only one of those buttons actually opens the trap door, but none of them know which. That way, no single person carries the weight of what happens next. The body drops, and it's over. Just like that. This is how Japan executes its death row inmates. But for the men we talked about today, that moment didn't take decades. So why did it happen so fast? 3 men, 3 executions, all carried out in less than 18 months after sentencing. What they had in common was that they confessed to their crimes, showed no signs of remorse, and never filed for retrials. In some cases, like Takuma's, they demanded death. In others, like Kikuchi, they disrupted public order by escaping prison. And in all 3 cases, the crimes were undeniable, the public outrage was immense, and the government was in no mood to wait. Was it justice, or was it something else? Japan's death penalty system is known for taking its time, but not always. Sometimes it moves fast, quiet, and final. You've just seen 3 examples, but there are others, and each one leaves behind the same uneasy question. After hearing what they did, do you still believe they deserve such a quick end to their lives? Or maybe that's the point. Their victims had no warning, so why should they? Share your thoughts in the comments. That's all for now. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.